Your Omaha High is being sponsored by Best Buy Signs, creator of the Omaha Parks program, OmahaFastFoods.com, Kohl's Pharmacy and Home Care, Certified Transmission, Centris Federal Credit Union, Shold-It, Rotella's Italian Bakery, La Peeps Restaurant, Performance Auto Group, Two Men and a Truck, Crane Landscape Construction, Shout Weekly, Mid-America Speakers Bureau, Farm Bureau Financial Services, Critter Control. Welcome to Your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg, the show that will leave you feeling great about yourself, Omaha's heroes, and Omaha, where we live, work, and play. So park yourself on the bench and have fun. Hi, and welcome to Your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg, the show that you tune into every week to learn new things about the ways to get yourself to a better life. Wherever you are, you're going to learn to even go just a little bit higher. We do this 3 different ways. The first part of the show, you'll be hearing 4 different motivational vignettes and insights that you probably have never heard of before. And then what we're going to do, we're going to introduce you to a marvelous nonprofit organization here in Omaha that does tremendous work. And then how many of us have ever had the travel bug? Well, we have an individual today who has traveled to over 160 countries. And we're going to learn from Mr. Richard Juro. Richard, we're looking very forward to chatting with you a little bit later on exactly how he does it, why he did it, and even more important, what you can do to begin your travel experience. But first, let's begin with our motivational vignettes. You know, there's an old expression that somebody told me once. It says, you can't be great forever. And this particular individual was talking about athletes that we know on the Huskers, from baseball, from football, from basketball, you name the sport. There are people who are great. But unfortunately, they get older. Their physical attributes are no longer the way they were when they were younger. So this person said, you know, the greatness is going to go away. You know what I said? You're absolutely wrong. Greatness never goes away, no matter what age you are at. Now, what am I talking about? When you're out there performing, be it in sports, be it in business, be it in your personal life, it doesn't matter. You are great. But it's your legacy. It's the memory. It's the reputation that you bring to everybody after you stop working, after you complete your physical abilities as an athlete. The amount of points that you were able to gather, the amount of teamwork efforts, the amount of leadership, the amount of profit, the amount of sales, it doesn't matter. You're the one that sets the records. You're the one that when people think about you, they say, you know what? When that particular person was in their profession, when that particular person did what they did better than anyone else, even today we think of them as the great ones. So greatness never ends, but it is up to you right now to begin that legacy of yours for greatness. Don't give it to anybody else. There's no need to do that. You're in charge of your destiny. You're in charge of your performance. You're in charge of the legacy that you will always have, and the name that you want to always have in front of yours is, hey, that person is great even to today, and he or she is the role model for everybody. Now, let's move on, and let's talk about the following thing. Let me give you an example. If you had the opportunity to have as much money as you ever thought of, but you had to balance that and make a choice between that or get the amount of happiness that you've ever wanted, which one of those two would you choose? Would you choose the money goal, or would you choose the happiness goal? And you know, there are many of us today in life that actually make that choice very, very, very often. Now, from my perspective, the way I would answer the question, if someone could guarantee me happiness, you bet, I'll take it anytime. And you know what, though? In real life, these choices are given to you and sometimes they're not. But let's assume for a moment that one of those, only one, you are in charge of. The one that you're in charge of is your happiness. Yes, you can go out, you can go ahead and do marvelous things in a business. You can do marvelous things in a profession. That money will accumulate. But as it's accumulating, what do you want to do with your happiness level? You want to always have it there. And the way you become happy is, number one, you have to understand what makes you happy. What puts that smile on your face? What gets you up in the morning? What gives you the energy? What gives you the enthusiasm? The other word that we're looking for is what gives you the passion. Now, by the way, there's more than one thing. When you add all of those to your portfolio of happiness, and when you begin to control each and every one of those, that's when your happiness quotient begins to rise. That's when your destiny of happiness happens. And you know what? The money is great, but one of the things you just might have proven to yourself is that money doesn't buy happiness. Not at all. There are a lot of people in this world that don't have a lot of money, but you know what? They're happy. You know what's a shame? That the United States, as rich as we are, or at least as rich as we think we are, our happiness quotient is still lower than most. So remember, always put yourself in charge of the happiness quotient. Now, let's also talk about dreams. We always say to people and ourselves, you know what? I want my dreams to come true. And that's wonderful. It's marvelous. Question is, do they? See, we make a mistake. And I don't want anybody to ever quit at dreaming. What you do need to do is turn those dreams into goals. Because the minute they're goals, they have what? They have action, they have feet, they have movement, they're measurable. And you no longer can walk around and say, well, one of my dreams is going to come true. They're not. Unless you turn them into goals. You turn them into goals with actions. You turn them into goals with timetables. You turn them into goals with people that will help you. You get a team around you. You get people that support you. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to list those 5 dreams that you always say to yourself, when are they going to come true? And they're frustrating because they haven't. And then you take those dreams and turn them into goals and make those action items. So stop dreaming and begin to become goal-oriented and goal achievers. When? Right now. And the other thing I want to talk to you about, the last thing, is an elevator. I want you to go through a visual image for a moment. I want you to ask yourself the following. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine that you are getting on an elevator. The elevator has finally arrived. Got it? Now, where is that elevator going? And where did you get that elevator? Is the elevator going up, or is the elevator going down? Were you on the ground floor, or are you on the middle, or are you on the top? The way you answer that question is very important, because we do know that elevators go up and they go down. If you're a downward thinker and you think everything is falling apart, chances are you're thinking to yourself, uh-oh, the elevator's going down, I'm going down with it. But remember, you might be a CEO with an office all the way on the top, or you can be an individual who's in the middle on your way up. On the other hand, if you're on the ground floor, terrific. That's part of our life. Always think about that elevator ride going up. That's the important thing for you to remember. Always think of the elevator ride going up, unless you're the CEO and you're going home right now. So let's go ahead and review those 4 vignettes. Number 1, you will always be great when you set that legacy for yourself. Number 2, select happiness. Control it. Be part of it. Make it happen for you all the time. And also remember that dreams have to be turned into goals. And the ultimate goal is to always take that ride up. Enjoy that elevator ride up and enjoy where it gets you in your life each and every time that you take that ride. And now during this time of the show, I always tell you about a marvelous organization. The organization that we're going to talk about today in Omaha is frankly going to shock you. Listen to this. Around the world and in our own Omaha community, women and girls often suffer from violence, shame, sexual exploitation, feelings of unworthiness, anger, and resentment. There's an organization called Rejuvenating Women, and it is a community of people dedicated to breaking down barriers of shame and guilt and teach women that they too can overcome their past and inspire others. Rejuvenating Women is a non-denominational, non-profit organization of women who are committed to meeting the needs of women who are hurting. As a result of Bible studies, open forum discussions, and one-on-one meetings and mentoring, women who attend feel a sense of relief and joy after releasing their deepest sorrows without being judged. Their mission is reaching women who desire redemption of shame through their Lord, with a long-term vision of no woman is without a voice, no woman is left abandoned, no woman is left without hope. Be sure to visit their booth at the B4B Symposium, which takes place Thursday, October 16th, 2014, at the Ramada Plaza Convention Center. Visit their website at www.rejuvenatingwomen.com or contact them at info@rejuvenatingwomen.com. And now, the time that we've been waiting for. You know, each and every one of us, we like to plan trips. We like to visit foreign countries. We like to see different ways that people live. Mr. Richard Juro, who we're going to talk to in just a second, is that person. Believe it or not, he has visited over 160 countries. And I've got a confession to make. I thought my 76 was pretty good, but not according to Richard. So let's learn his secrets and some of the wonderful things that he's been able to accomplish. Well, Rich, 160 countries, that's terrific.
Thank you.
What was the first one?
Well, the first one was to Mexico on our honeymoon. And of course, my wife planned that because she was the one that really originally had the travel bug.
Interesting. So you went to Mexico. That was the first one. Was that the first time you were out of the country?
I may have been, I think I took a trip to the Bahamas with a cousin when I was 15, just for an overnight thing or something.
But this is really the first adult trip. So is that when you started getting the bug for travel? Or?
I would say so. But then after we finished school, my wife had been working for a year, saved her pennies, and we took off and did Europe on $5 a day per person for over 3 months.
Now, wait just a minute. No one's going to believe that, Richard.
Hey, there were lots of people doing it back in 1966.
As a matter of fact, you're making me remember there was a book out.
Yes,
Europe on $5 a day.
Now that covered the wherever you stayed and food, but you would just eat on the street, and you would stay in pensions or people's houses or things like that.
Interesting. So it wasn't a Four Seasons hotel, or it wasn't a Holiday Inn.
I don't think it was even a one-season hotel.
So it was just learning about people.
But we were young then.
Oh, absolutely.
And we would take overnight trains so we wouldn't have to pay for the hotel room.
So you had this whole thing planned, and you did that for 3 months.
Yes.
Superb.
Yeah.
So, question, that was a while back. You said 1966. Here you are many years further. How's travel changed?
I would say, first of all, it's much easier to get to places because planes go more places more frequently. It's easy to stay in places. There are a lot more places to stay, different types of accommodations, B&Bs, pensions, hotels of all types. And but as far as the airplane travel itself, that's not as good as it used to be.
No, I guess it isn't. We all hear horror stories about that.
Right.
Certainly not going to go into that.
My wife is flying back from Miami today, but isn't going to be here till who knows when.
Who knows when.
One of the planes was broken. So.
But here's an interesting thing. In spite of the problems of flying, it doesn't stop you from traveling.
No, of course not.
No.
I mean, and I was going to bring this up later, but our motto in traveling and why we keep going is that the worst that happens makes the best story later.
The worst that happens makes the best story later. That's
absolutely
a very interesting perspective.
And that's, if you want to travel, you have to keep that in mind and just use that as a motto.
As a motto. There's another interesting point that Richard brings up, and let's understand this perfectly. It's not easy to travel, airplane travel. We all see it, we all know it, we've all experienced it. It's a hassle. But does that stop him from traveling? No. In our lives, each and every one of us has a place we want to go. Many of us quit because the journey is too hard. Take this lesson from Richard. Don't quit. All right, so there's an obstacle there. It's a bit of a hassle. Who cares? As long as you get to where you're going, that's the important thing. That's the lesson. So 160 countries. Who plans these trips for you?
Well, originally my wife did, but now we kind of take turns picking the places we want to go. And now that we've gone to 100, actually my wife has gone to more than I have because She used to travel some when I was still working. Now I'm retired and we go together. But we kind of take turns picking places that we want to go, and whatever trip we go to now, we try to pick at least one country that we haven't been to.
Yeah, which of course you need to add up to it. So how many countries are there, and how many have you approximately visited?
Well, that's not an exact number, interestingly. The one what we use is the U.S. Department of State, which counts 190 independent nations that belong to the United Nations, plus 2 other sovereign nations that are not in the UN, and that is Vatican and Kosovo.
Okay.
So that's a total of 194.
So you've got, well, you just might make, is that your goal, to visit all of them?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I don't know if we'll make it,
All right.
especially because we've got a lot of countries in Africa that are either, now you have
Problems.
Ebola, and there's a lot of countries that have political problems, so we may not make some of them. We haven't been to Iraq, for example, which you could go to until a year or two ago. You could go to Kurdistan.
But in replacement of Iraq, you did go to North Korea.
Yes, we went to North Korea two years ago for
Richard,
8 days.
Why?
Because we could.
Oh, okay. So nobody prevented you from going in?
No, there's State Department or U.S. government cannot tell you where to go or not to go.
Right.
Unless you're in the military.
Sure. So was it a problem getting a visa getting into North Korea?
No, there's like 3 American tour companies that'll set up your tour with the North Korean tour company. You fly to Beijing, and then you get your visa there, and then you fly to Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea.
What was the name of the capital again? Yangyang?
Pyongyang.
Oh, Pyongyang. I'm sorry. Thank
Right.
you. So were you afraid? Did you take out extra insurance? What did your family think? I mean, it's got to be rather traumatic with everybody getting arrested, put in prison and slave camps and whatever.
Well, first of all, I mean, people think we're crazy anyway. I mean, not just North Korea. We'd go all kinds of odd places. But as far as the people getting arrested, I certainly sympathize and empathize with them, but you have to realize when you go to a place like North Korea, you have to know what the rules are in that particular jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of people that were arrested for proselytizing or distributing Bibles.
While you were there?
No.
Okay,
That's
but
the
before,
American tourists that have been arrested.
Got it.
Either before or after we were there. And there were other people that were arrested for supposedly trying to help some North Koreans plan their escape into China and get out of North Korea. So it's just not something that you really want to do, or you may suffer the consequences. Now, my wife has a tendency to get into trouble. In North Korea, she almost did. We were standing in front of the huge stone statues of the great leader and the dear leader, Kim Jong-un's father and grandfather. And it was a hot day, and Fran was wearing holding an umbrella up for the sun. And our young female guide said to her, she called us Grandma and Grandpa. She says, "Grandma, you can't have an umbrella over your head." And Fran says, "Why not?" And she said, it's disrespectful to the great leader. Ooh. So Fran said, "Okay," and she put the umbrella away and she put on a hat. And our guide said, "That's not respectful either." And Fran says, "Well, that's ridiculous." So she put it away and then she put on sunglasses. And our tour guide said, "You're still disrespecting the great leader, and please take that off." And now Fran who's a little argumentative, when
I can tell.
she points over to a group of other tourists about 25 feet away, and even the tour guide there was wearing sunglasses.
Wow.
And Fran points to them, so our guide goes over there, yells at the guide and the tourists, and they all took off their hats and sunglasses, and that was the end of the incident.
Well, we're grateful about that.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, tell me something how you felt the people of North Korea are.
Well, unfortunately, North Korea is the only country that we've ever been in, including the Soviet Union in 1966 and 1980 and other dictatorships. North Korea was the only one where we were told, please do not go out of the hotel by yourself. So we really did not have any possibility of talking to regular people on the street, and they would be afraid to talk to you anyway, and they don't speak English. I mean, when you go to North Korea, the first thing that happens is they take away your cell phone, and
Interesting.
And they also take away your passport.
Do you think they were trying to keep the people away from you, or you away from the people to influence them?
Both.
Both. And I bring that up because I was in Nepal once. And when I was in Nepal, that was about 7 years after they opened it up for tourism. And I asked my guide, I said, how do the people of Nepal feel about the Americans and the Western people coming in? He had a very interesting answer. He said, just look at us. We no longer wear our traditional garb. What we do is we've transferred into jeans, we've transferred into t-shirts, and quite frankly, we don't like it. So they were probably afraid that the Americans or the rest of the tourists would influence them. Now, did you ever feel that people were following you? Did you ever feel scared or at all? North Korea? Yeah.
No, because we're always with a guide.
Good for you. Good
I mean,
for
you didn't have a choice. You couldn't go by yourself.
Now, would you recommend that trip to other people?
If they want to, why not?
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
we found it very interesting.
Good. So would you go? Would you go to North Korea? If you had the opportunity, if you knew that guides were available, if you would be protected, would you go to North Korea? Now, many of us would say, no, I don't want to take that risk. Now, remember, the way you succeed in life is by taking risks. Now, the chances are of you being arrested, as long as you follow the rules, as Richard just said a moment ago, are very, very, very slight. It's the same thing in life. Once you understand the rules of the risk, once you understand the reward of the risk, there's no reason not to do it. And that's what makes a lot of sense. So let's leave North Korea, and let's begin to say, what was your favorite country?
Well, I think my two favorite countries for just pure pleasure of traveling were New Zealand and South Africa. They both have great natural beauty. New Zealand has Swiss Alps, Norwegian fjords, hot springs, great hiking, lots of lakes and skiing, and it's the home of extreme sports. It's just a beautiful, beautiful country. South Africa has the Cape of Good Hope. Right. They have penguins. They have a wonderful coast. And of course, they also have the best safaris in the world.
Sure.
The good thing about both of them also is that they both have great wine growing areas, and you can go enjoy wine and lunch. And the other thing is with both of them, since they both have lots of coastline, is you can actually see them on land or you can see them on a cruise line, except for the safari in South Africa, where you would get off of the cruise.
And
for a couple of days.
The country that you disliked the most, that you said, "Ooh, this was really not worth my time going to."
No, I actually, wherever we are is where we like the most, and I wouldn't say there was no country that I did not enjoy. And like I said, if there's something that you don't like, it makes the best story later.
There you go. What's your best memory of traveling?
The best memory of traveling? Possibly Ethiopia, where we took part in they're Orthodox Coptic Christians, except Ethiopian Orthodox, and we were there on a holiday, and there were thousands of people dressed in their best, gathered around a small lake, and the high priest was talking on for a couple of hours, and I was holding up a little boy so he could see.
Oh, wow.
And at the end, finally, he finished, and his assistants all picked up little pails, empty pails, dipped it in the lake, threw it on the crowd, and it was a mass baptism. So even though I'm Jewish, I've been baptized in Ethiopia.
That's a great memory to have and a great memory to share. And moving forward, what would you recommend to people who travel? Would you tell them to be fearful? Would you tell them to do it? Where would you tell them to go first? I know those are three questions, but...
Well, I would say go wherever you feel most comfortable. If you like cruises, take a cruise. If you don't like cruises, fly to wherever you want and either drive around, depending on the country, or join an organized tour. Do whatever you feel like, but just do it.
Just do it, sure.
It's the wonderful way to experience other people's lives and how other people live and how they think about you. And we've just learned from every place we've been to.
Briefly, if there was one thing you would want our viewers to take away from the time we spent together, just one thing, what would that be?
Take the elevator up, but take the one that goes out over to another country and experience it and enjoy it.
And I think what we're trying to say to everybody is enjoy life, experience life. There are no boundaries. Anything, as Richard said, anything that you want to do, just focus on and take that elevator ride up and begin to accumulate marvelous memories. And if there are issues and problems that are going to be occurring, hey, so be it. Tell great stories about it. Because guess what? Life itself is a traveling journey. You're always moving. You're not stagnant. You're always going to different places. And it becomes so important for each and every one of us to remember that. Richard, on behalf of our viewers, I want to thank you so much. It was so enlightening. And who knows, maybe one day we'll sit next to each other on an airplane.
I hope so.
Let's review what we learned today on your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg. We have those 4 vignettes. I just want to remind you of what they were. You will be great. You should always choose happiness. Always take that elevator ride up and always enjoy it. And always think about marvelous things the way you're going to succeed in life. And I want to let you know that next week we have another marvelous guest coming up who has a tremendous career. David Kotak, the managing editor who's now retired from the Omaha World Herald, will be here to share his insights about careers, about Omaha, and yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about politics. So I look forward to each and every one of you coming back next week and enjoying another opportunity to get high with your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg. See you next week. Your Omaha High was sponsored by Best Buy Signs, creator of the Omaha Parks Program, OmahaFastFoods.com, Kohl's Pharmacy and Home Care, Certified Transmission, Centris Federal Credit Union, Shold-It, Rotella's Italian Bakery, La Peeps Restaurant, Performance Auto Group, 2 Men and a Truck, Crane Landscape Construction, Shout Weekly, Mid-America Speakers Bureau, Farm Bureau Financial Services, Critter Control.